And we take you now live to Buckingham Palace, where the Queen is about to speak.
Since last Sunday's dreadful news, we have seen throughout Britain and around the world an overwhelming expression of sadness at Diana's death. We have all been trying in our different ways to cope. It is not easy to express a sense of loss, since the initial shock is often succeeded by a mixture of other feelings: disbelief, incomprehension, anger, and concern for those who remain. We have all felt those emotions in these last few days. So what I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her. I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death. I share in your determination to cherish her memory. This is also an opportunity for me, on behalf of my family, and especially Prince Charles and William and Harry, to thank all of you who have brought flowers, sent messages, and paid your respects in so many ways to a remarkable person. These acts of kindness have been a huge source of help and comfort. Our thoughts are also with Diana's family and the families of those who died with her. I know that they too have drawn strength from what has happened since last weekend, as they seek to heal their sorrow and then to face the future without a loved one. I hope that tomorrow we can all, wherever we are, join in expressing our grief at Diana's loss and gratitude for her all too short life. It is a chance to show to the whole world the British nation united in grief and respect. May those who died rest in peace, and may we, each and every one of us, thank God for someone who made many, many people happy.
We welcome our international viewers.
Having heard the extraordinary message of mourning from Queen Elizabeth, let's go right to CNN's Fionnuala Sweeney outside Buckingham Palace for reaction from the crowd there. Fionnuala.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And we have pulled two people from the many, many people here outside Buckingham Palace to give us their views and their reaction to the Queen's speech, which we have just heard. We have Leighton, who is actually from Nottingham, and we have Grace with us, who's from Essex. Grace, let me ask you first, do you think that what the Queen had to say was enough to dispel the public disquiet there has been?
No, not enough. I think the people of England and of the world, they want more. We wanted more this week, and we expected more. And it's very much, the royals are so much a very stiff upper lip. That's not what the British people want. I know that's not what I want.
But the Queen did, in her speech, say that there was such a shock at the news of the sudden death, and she said that turned to disbelief and that turned to anger.
I think we're all angry. I think we're angry for many, many reasons. I think the royals should have come back. They should have come back to Buckingham Palace. There should have been a flag. The flag should have been flying. There hasn't been a flag. We should have had some form of some comments from the royals or someone close to the royals, even though we can relate to the grief that they must be feeling also.
Leighton, let me ask you, what was your reaction to what the Queen has just had to say?
Well, it's a time for sadness and for regret, not for recriminations. We'll have many weeks in which to consider the future of the monarchy or whatever, how it should develop. This is a time for us to be sad and to reflect upon Diana and what she did for this nation.
What had you been expecting the Queen to say in this unprecedented speech?
I don't think the Queen could have said any more than she did, other than crying, openly weeping or something. That's not in the nature of a monarch, and maybe that's what people wanted. But as a head of state, I think she did all she could.
Okay, there we must leave it for the moment, but thank you very much indeed. I've been talking to two people here, drawn from the many, many people here at Buckingham Palace to hear the Queen's speech. We now go for more reaction to CNN's Bill Delaney, who's standing by at St. James Palace. Bill.
Yes, Finola, quite a crowd formed around our position here just down from Buckingham Palace in front of St. James Palace to listen with us to the speech by Queen Elizabeth. I have two British subjects here with me at the moment. First, we turn to Beverly Griffiths, who's been listening to the speech with us, who's been following the events of the past few days very closely. Beverly, what did you think of the speech?
I think it was good to hear the Queen actually acknowledge what Diana has done for this country, and to actually let the people know how she feels and how her family has felt. I think we can't underestimate how difficult a week this has been for the whole family. It's been a terrible shock for the people, but also it has been a terrible shock for the Queen and her grandchildren and Prince Charles as well, who was indeed her husband.
Indeed, they are a family.
They are a family. I think you can't forget this. And of course, many of us feel we know Diana, but of course I never met her. And I think it's important to acknowledge that the fact that people who lived with her are the ones who have really felt the loss deeply this week. But it's good the Queen has now come forward tonight and let the people know her feelings.
I turn to Richard Waswillow, who's a Londoner. Richard, you were telling me before that you're one of the really many millions here who felt that the royals had been much too detached this week.
Yeah.
Has your mind shifted around any after this talk?
Well, I felt that Her Majesty come across, and she come across with very heartful and compassionate. And I just hope she can draw a message from Diana and all the experience from what her subjects feel. And Diana sort of tried to bring the family into the 21st century, where the Queen seems to be too much with protocol and living in the past. And if she can warm a little bit more to her subjects, I think the royal families, will benefit from it a lot more than they have the way they've been acting over the last week.
Richard, can a 71-year-old monarch change at this point?
I think if there's a will there, if she draws something from Diana, I'm sure, she's just got to walk around Buckingham Palace, the Mall, and feel the compassion. And, and if Her Majesty could draw some of that, it would give her a will to change. I'm sure, there's lessons to be learned.
Beverly, do you think that this amazing Princess Diana has changed changed the monarchy here?
Oh, indeed. I think, as you say, she has brought them into the 21st century, and taking them forward, she's brought her children up to know what it's like in the outside world, to actually stand in queues and to pay for things and not just expect to walk in the front all the time.
It will be a new royalty,
it will be a new royalty, I think, in the next century, and her son, I think, will take us forward now. Beverly
and Richard, thank you very much for speaking with us. Two of the many millions here will make up their own minds about Queen Elizabeth's talk. Certainly an address no one would have expected even just a couple of days ago. An address that is certainly an almost unprecedented attempt to reach out from the regal distance of the British monarchy to the average person at this time. So many are feeling very, very privately in their hearts. Natalie?
Bill Delaney in London. Thank you, Bill. We will talk more about the statements just made by the Queen in just a second, but first we want to show you some scenes earlier today that occurred in London as the royal family arrived back from Balmoral, Scotland, back to London. A poignant moment when the princess and their father arrived at Kensington Palace and greeted folks gathered outside there.
God be with you, William. William? Oh, the very best.
Thank you, thank you. Your mother will live on in your looks forever.
The two princes and their father at Kensington Palace, and the Queen, as she arrived back today, talked with people gathered outside Buckingham Palace.
Mom, take care of the boys. Take care of the boys, Mom.
That's what we've been doing.
Sorry?
That's what we've been doing.
I know you
Again, the Queen, just before she spoke this afternoon to people gathered outside Buckingham Palace, and we are going to speak with someone about the words she chose to say about Diana in a minute.
It is time for us to take a break. We'll also be talking a little bit about the surveillance pictures just released today. Surveillance pictures shot at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, literally moments before Princess Diana died.
That house without those people coming and volunteering their time. So, you know, we need to help somebody too.
After more than a century in American homes, Maxwell House is proud to help Habitat for Humanity build 100 houses in 100 weeks.
Recent reports of UFO sightings in the skies of Fulton County have caused...
Our trouble, son?
Yeah, I was just on the internet and...
You get the internet on that phone?
Yeah, email, stock quotes, it's a page or two.
The Q-Phone, the most advanced palm-sized digital PCS phone from Qualcomm.
Weird guy. Cool phone.
Again, the Queen, before her speech today, talking with people outside Buckingham Palace as she arrived back from Scotland. And we are joined now by a freelance journalist who has written a lot about Britain's royal family. Sue Ellicott speaks to us from our London bureau. Sue, thank you for being with us. Your reaction to the Queen's words and her demeanor today?
I think she did very well. I mean, I think there's been so much criticism of the royal family being very distant and not having commented up until now. We'll never know whether she would have commented had there not been a public outcry. I will say fanned by the tabloid newspapers in the past few days. But I don't see that she can really be faulted. I think that people who expected her to come out and sob as if she were President Clinton or even our own Prime Minister and shed a tear for the cameras had completely false expectations. The royal family has been bred for centuries not to blubber in front of the public, and it was never going to happen. And so do you think I think there were some...
I'm sorry, do you think then it's a surprise that so many people have criticized the royal family because they didn't come out earlier when for years this has been the way the royal family operates?
I think that the outpouring of grief and the anger has been somewhat surprising, but what isn't really a big shock is that there's been a long simmering resentment toward the royal family for all sorts of things, and the country very much, the public mood very much goes in cycles. You know, they'll be at an all-time low, and then 2 years later they'll be doing somewhat better. And this year they've been at the lowest public approval rating than they have ever in their entire history. And I think that Diana's death has really been a lightning rod for all of that. And the amount of outpouring of grief has been really somewhat hysterical in the last few days, and I think that, as in so many instances when people die, there's somewhat sort of a reworking of memories, and no one can think of anything bad or negative to say about Diana anymore, and even if they did have negative thoughts, they feel very guilty about them, and they're trying to blame somebody, and the royal family is being blamed, I mean, quite unfairly.
Yes, the Queen...
It does seem perfectly reasonable that the Queen would have shielded her grandsons as a grandmother would in their private estate and not have sent them out to face the cameras until today.
Right. As she said in the beginning, we are all trying in our different ways to cope. We also noted that she did say the words Diana, which she hadn't said before, but she did not call her Princess Diana. Any significance to that at all?
I think that maybe she was trying to use the word Diana as one would of one's relative or her ex-daughter-in-law. I mean, there's a huge controversy about the Queen's removal of Diana as Her Royal Highness, the HRH in her title, and the divorce. Perhaps she was taking advice from her speechwriters to circumvent that. Who knows? I think the most interesting thing about the speech, though, was the backdrop. I mean, as a Briton, we're used to seeing our Queen give very formal speeches on Christmas Day and on other occasions in a very stilted office backdrop. And I think the use of the open window with the crowds outside behind Buckingham Palace really tried to give her, it was very cleverly staged, to make it look as though there was a connection between her and actual living, breathing subjects outside her window. I don't know whether they staged that with a film of people outside or whether it actually was live off through a side window of the palace, but I thought that was a very clever move by Buckingham Palace.
And toward the end, she said, the funeral tomorrow is a chance to show the whole world the British nation united in grief and respect. She seemed to want to say it's time for us all to pull together.
Well, you know, I think the country would have pulled together, you know, whatever the Queen had said. And are you suggesting that she didn't think that the country would pull together enough?
Well, perhaps talking about the fact that there's been much criticism of the royal family, and tomorrow perhaps is not a day for that.
No, no. Perhaps that's what she's trying to say. She's trying to diffuse some sort of tension. I thought that there was they've gone a long way to sort of appease the public and the complaints this week, that by agreeing to put a flag, half-mast, a Union Jack British flag on Buckingham Palace, which is a complete break with protocol. That's never done for anybody. Even if the Queen were to die or her mother were to die, that would never happen. And the princes did come out and shake people's hands outside the royal estate in Scotland when they left. The Queen herself went to look at the floral tributes with her husband, Prince Philip, outside, and I saw some footage, and one member from the crowd, he had a, ma'am, please look after the boys. And Prince Philip said quite angrily, you know, that's what we have been doing. And I think that the speech really today was a way overall to try and say, look, we are a family as well. We have our royal duties, but I am a grandmother. She referred to herself as your Queen and as a grandmother, and I think it was a fairly skillful attempt to put a human face, albeit a somewhat uptight and stiff upper-lipped human face, onto members of the royal family, especially herself.
All right, Sue Ellicott, we thank you for joining us from London. Thanks. Now, Miles.
That's the word from a professional watcher of the royals. Perhaps every British subject is a royal watcher, however, perhaps amateur status nevertheless. Bill Delaney is among some of them outside St. James Palace in London, and Bill has some further reaction for us. Bill?
Oh, well, yes, Miles, it's raining gently out here, but there are still thousands milling around, and many of those thousands listen to the speech on small portable radios. One of them was Simon Turpin. Simon, what was your reaction to this overwhelming expression of sadness as Queen Elizabeth referred to her speech just as she began?
I'd say it was a most compassionate speech, exactly what I would expect from our Queen, and exactly the right response, and very moving indeed.
How have you been feeling this week? Have you felt that the royals were too detached?
I think that for any family in a bereavement, 5 days of silence is really quite reasonable. But I welcome having heard the Queen speak to us today, but I certainly wouldn't want her to rush into this sort of thing and make a considered response to the nation.
Nonetheless, she does seem to have responded to public pressure. There was no intention to do such a speech, let alone for the Queen to even come to London until tomorrow morning. All that changed, not to mention right where we're standing here a couple of hours ago. The Queen walked amongst her subjects, took a slow drive down the Mall here. Has she changed? Are the royals going to change? Is the legacy of Princess Diana that change?
I hope so, and perhaps something good will certainly come from what is an awful situation. You only have to look at the people here milling around, just wanting to be part of it. We can't do anything to change what happened last Sunday, but we can certainly show something to be part of it. And if the royal family has changed, we're better for it, then great. And what's wrong with a little bit of people power?
Simon Turpin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed. As I said before, it's raining here. The crowds, however, have not thinned. Evening is coming on. Still thousands out here on the mall preparing for tomorrow's funeral procession. Fanula?
Thank you very much, Bill. It's raining here just down the road from you in St. James's Palace. Here at Buckingham Palace, I have Jackie, who's from Lancashire, and Sally, who's from Hertfordshire, and you both heard the Queen's speech. And do you think it was enough, first of all, Jackie, to dispel the public criticism?
It was. It was from the heart. It wasn't just from a piece of tape, it was from the heart.
Do you think that the Queen needed to come down to London in the first place, or were you one of those people who thought that she should have stayed in Balmoral and it would have been fine just to grieve in private?
I think that she was right to stay in Balmoral, and that everyone should respect the royal family's need to have some privacy and time to come to terms with what's happened.
Do you think we would have seen Prince Charles and Prince William and Prince Harry walking about today at St. James's Palace had there not been this public outcry?
I don't know, but very probably. I think so, yes. I think they would have wanted to know what people have said, and having seen the tributes, it's very, very moving, and I'm sure is giving them a lot of support and strength.
Jackie, there has been some speculation and talk about that this public outcry was really a creation of the press, particularly the tabloid press. Is that something you'd go along with, or do you think that there was real public concern at the flag not flying at half-staff?
I think it's been a smaller majority of people than we think who have raised these issues, sometimes too strongly. I've listened to them at 6:30 in the morning with these interviews outside the palace and everything, and partly them, people like them, and I'm sorry to say, partly the press, yes.
And finally, Jackie, do you think that this is going to mean a definitive change in the monarchy and how it has conducted its business?
Yes, I do. And I think it was wonderful to see Sarah and those girls arrive at the palace today and go through those gates. And I hope that Diana's death, it will not go in vain in many ways, and I think this will be one thing that's going to be attributed to this. I think the heart is going to show more than it has done for a long time.
Okay, Jackie and Sally, thank you both very much for joining us. I'm Fanula Sweeney outside Buckingham Palace in London. Back to Miles O'Brien in Atlanta.
Thanks very much, Fanula. It's time for us to take a break. When we return, we'll show you some pictures which were released by the Ritz Hotel in Paris just today. Those pictures showing events leading up to the death of Princess Diana, and perhaps shedding some new light on the investigation, the latest on that investigation into the death of Princess Diana, when we return. Stay with us.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, ignition, lift off.
Century, CNA has been committed to managing risks, both ordinary and extraordinary. CNA, for all the commitments you make.
Precision engineering. Performance that nails you to your seat. But enough about the high-performance computers Dell built for Ford. What can we build yours to do? Call now, and for just $119 a month, you can lease this Dell Dimension XPS with a 266 megahertz Intel Pentium 2 processor featuring MMX technology, 32 megs of SD RAM, a 6.4 gig hard drive with Microsoft Office Small Business Edition, a Trinitron monitor, 24x max variable CD-ROM, even a 4 meg 3D video card, and 24-hour tech support. The Dell Dimension XPS with a 266 megahertz Intel Pentium 2 processor. Pure performance for just $119 a month. Dell, what can we build yours to do?
Another compelling piece to this story of Diana's death is a video we're about to show you. A short time ago, the Ritz Hotel in Paris released the security video of Princess Diana's arrival and departure, both in the company of Dodi Fayed, on Saturday evening, just before both were killed in that nearby tunnel.
This is Mr. Wingfield, the security bodyguard, Mr. Doty, and Trevor Rees-Jones. After approximately 10 minutes, you'll see the Princess and Mr. Doty, because of the attention inside the restaurant, they actually decide to have a meal in their room. You'll see them shortly emerge from the restaurant. The Princess pops into a boutique. There she is there. She emerges shortly afterwards. Here is Mr. Doty, the Princess. They then come down the foyer, go behind these pillars, and you'll see them shortly walk up the stairs to the Imperial Suite. Okay, here we see Mr. Doty and Princess Diana talking to Kes Wingfield again. This is the discussion concerning the paparazzi, the motorcycles, the reckless driving that had taken place by the paparazzi on the drive, both from Le Bourget to the Champs-Élysées, and obviously the drive immediately preceding their visit to the Ritz. The night security, Ritz security man who's responsible for the back door, this is a staff entrance area effectively. Here you see Ms. Jean-Marie Paul, Trevor Rees-Jones, obviously the Princess, and Mr. Doty. At this stage, Kes Wingfield and Philippe Dionio were preparing the two vehicles at the front of the hotel in order to hopefully deflect any attention at the rear of the hotel. They actually waited here for some 5 minutes. For brevity, we've just included the last minute or so before they step out into the street. Here you see Ms. Jean-Marie Paul checking the road for paparazzi. He's obviously seen the vehicle is approaching. The party leave the entrance. The group are getting into the vehicle. Trevor Rees-Jones is getting to the front right-hand side. Obviously, Jean-Marie Paul jumping into the driver's seat. The Princess is in the rear right-hand side behind Trevor Rees-Jones. Mr. Doty obviously behind the driver, Henri Paul. The cars are pulling away quite sedately and quite normally. This gentleman reported at the time, having obviously had a good view of the street. There were no paparazzi immediately in the area, although he did report seeing somebody at the very far end, about 120 meters hence, talking into either a mobile phone or a handheld radio. The last sequence is a shot from the front of the hotel at exactly the same
1,500 back or 2.9 financing on Escort or Ranger. So see your Northwest Ford dealer today before the Great American Ford Sales Event is over.
Hi, I'm Jill with Empire Glass. If you have a cracked windshield and you have comprehensive insurance coverage, Empire Glass will now pay up to $150 of your insurance deductible. And we'll also give you
their best friend and their biggest champion, their mother.
Donald Spoda, is it royal protocol that they can't cry?
It's not royal protocol. What one has to understand is that the royal family are used to everything being orchestrated. Everything is scripted. There must never be anything spontaneous. These two fine young men who are doing their best have been trained to a fare thee well for every moment since this awful news was given to them. It simply is part of the firm, as King George VI called the royal family, closing in ranks. There must be, and a very nice lady spoke a few moments ago about the stiff upper lip tradition of Great Britain. This is not wartime. We're not talking about, anguish at the front.
Excuse me for interrupting once again. Breaking news as always. We're going to take that first. Let's go to the newsroom and Miles O'Brien. Miles?
Thanks very much, Susan. As we continue our live coverage of the death of Princess Diana, we take you now live to London. This is outside Kensington Palace, we're told, where a throng of people is awaiting the arrival of Diana's casket. A few moments ago, she began the slow procession from St. James Palace to Kensington Palace. Kensington Palace, of course, where she and her two sons lived. Kensington Palace, the point of origin for the funeral procession, which begins tomorrow morning. You may recall the royal family had intended to have a much shorter procession. When the estimates of the crowd grew to some 8 million, it became clear that the procession had to be lengthened to some 4 miles to give people an opportunity to express their grief. Just looking at the crowd here gives you a sense of the kind of outpouring that is underway in England, not to mention the outpouring that we have been receiving reports of from throughout the world in the wake of Princess Diana's death. And of course, the other news of the day, another notable and good woman who passed away, Mother Teresa, having died a little earlier today, apparently after long illness with her heart. In any case, this is the scene once again, Kensington Palace. It's unclear right at this moment from looking at these pictures where the procession is. which carries the casket of Diana. But this is where she is ultimately headed, where she will lie in state overnight, and then the procession beginning tomorrow morning with a funeral planned for Westminster Abbey tomorrow sometime in the morning. As we said, the crowd's estimated at some 8 million along the processional route. People there have been respectful thus far, have been waiting in some cases 12 hours to sign a book of condolences at St. James Palace. We're looking at a newscaster from England, part of our feed from ITN. CNN, of course, will continue to cover the events as they continue, and as we have pictures, we will bring them to you, and as we have further information about the investigation into the death of Princess Diana, we'll also bring you that as well. Let's return now to Talkback Live, and here's Susan Rook.
As we're looking at the pictures of the casket and everything, let's go to Catherine Jacobs, clinical psychologist, and grief is your specialty. And Catherine, I'm going to let Sue make a comment and look at it in light of the pictures that we've just seen. Sue, go ahead.
I cannot imagine those children, the 15 and the 12-year-old, living their life in a fishbowl. Catherine, just for a question, your advice to those boys on how to handle their grief. And then I can't even ask for advice on a nation. I ask for advice on a world on how to handle grief as well as shock and disbelief.
Well, it's very reassuring to people who are suffering such shock and grief to be surrounded by other people who are suffering at the same time. It sort of validates the reality of it. So it's too bad, in a way, that the boys have been kept in isolation. And I'm so glad that they're going to walk behind their mother's casket tomorrow, because I think that when William in particular feels the people and their emotions for him, their support and their grief and their love for him, that there will be a tremendous bonding between him and the people. And he will become their future king at that point in a very special way. And I think that I don't know what it's like for them, obviously, to live so much in a fishbowl, but I think they will sorely miss their mother's guiding hand, because she always tried to keep them in touch with common people and with the freedom to express their emotions. I can only hope that the royal family doesn't close them up and isolate them away, but allows them to experience their feelings and express them. In music in particular, adolescents love to express all their feelings with music, and grief is a very powerful emotion that can be expressed in adolescent music.
Warren is monitoring our website, and Warren, you were saying earlier that the emotions are running pretty high in there?
Yeah, everybody is trying to deal with the loss of these two great people in their own way. Each of these people were great in their own way, and everybody is doing the best they can to deal with the loss that the world is suffering.
Bill Delaney, let's go to you. I've heard so many reports say that this funeral and all of the magistry of it is designed as a way to help vent a lot of that grief.
Well, I think what's already beginning to happen here is that we had kind of a pressure cooker for the last couple of days. Grief, some anger at the royal family, it's all been building, and people haven't had a way to really let it all go. That's starting to happen now with the return of the royal family here to London, with Prince William and Prince Harry walking out amongst the people, as you were talking about before. Prince William's brilliant smile. Everyone here is talking about the kind of light that comes out of this 15-year-old boy, despite the incredible circumstances he finds himself in. About an hour after that, Queen Elizabeth II herself going to visit first Princess Diana at rest in St. James Palace. Afterward came out and walked among the people, walked among her subjects for several minutes. Then got in her limousine and slowly moved down the mall to Buckingham Palace behind me, where she then in short order gave her address to the nation, an address given at an open window looking out on the people in front of Buckingham Palace instead of just in a television studio. All of this is beginning to give people an opportunity to feel like this tremendous event that everyone feels so personally is real, and I think that's part of the grieving process. As Princess Diana's coffin passed us just half an hour ago, right behind us here, you could feel a deep sense of emotion, this tremendous hush in all these crowds. No one speaks. But when the coffin had passed, when the hearse had passed, people then began to speak. There was a sense of release. The entire procession tomorrow, this event that's bringing millions to London, I think will also be about giving people an opportunity to absorb this and to release the grief and to move on.
As we take a break, I'll share with you this fact sent in from Connie in Florida. The world lost 2 special ladies, but heaven gained 2 special angels. We'll take a break. We will be back after this.
Why are AT&T, MCI, and Sprint charging you when you're answering the door or having coffee? Why are they still charging you for one call when you're making another? Whatever you do after you hang up, they keep charging you.
AT&T, MCI, and Sprint still round up to the next minute for calls you make from home. LCI won't do that. Call LCI and start saving right away.
Because why should you be charged when you're walking your dog?
Imagine if getting gas were more like mid-flight refueling. We have at the new, faster, easier Shell. Shell, moving at the speed of life.
Only Ginsana has unique G115 ginseng for lasting energy. It's what makes Ginsana different from everything else.
Feel your Ginsana. It feels good.
Feel your Ginsana.
One of the humanitarians that Tammy is talking about, of course, Princess Diana, and as we have just seen her casket arriving, released just a couple hours ago the very last tapes of her when she was alive. Of course, that was at the Ritz in Paris. They are surveillance tapes, and basically they show Princess Diana, Dodi, also her entourage, which included the only survivor of that deadly crash, Trevor Rees-Jones. He, of course, remains in the hospital in critical condition.
Security bodyguard, Mr. Dodi, and Trevor Rees-Jones. Okay, here we see Mr. Dodi and Princess Diana talking to Kes Wingfield again. This is the discussion concerning the paparazzi, the motorcycles, the reckless driving that had taken place by the paparazzi on the drive, both from Le Bourget to the Champs-Élysées, and obviously the drive immediately preceding their visit to the Ritz. The night security, Ritz security man who's responsible for the back door. This is a staff entrance area, effectively. Here you see Jean-Marie Paul, Trevor Rees-Jones, obviously the princess, and Mr. Dodi. At this stage, Kes Wingfield and Philippe Dionio were preparing the 2 vehicles at the front of the hotel in order to hopefully deflect any attention at the rear of the hotel. They actually waited here for some 5 minutes. For brevity, we've just included the last minute or so before they step out into the street. Here you see Jean-Marie Paul checking the road for paparazzi. He's obviously seen the vehicle is approaching. The party leave the entrance. The group are getting into the vehicle. Trevor Rees-Jones is getting to the front right-hand side. Obviously Henri Paul jumping into the driver's seat. The princess is in the rear right-hand side behind Trevor Rees-Jones. Mr. Dodi obviously behind the driver, Henri Paul. The cars are pulling away quite sedately and quite normally. This gentleman reported at the time, having obviously had a good view of the street. There were no paparazzi immediately in the area, although he did report seeing somebody at the very far end, about 120 meters hence, talking into either a mobile phone or a handheld radio. The last sequence is a shot from the front of the hotel at exactly the same time, indicating the very reason that they felt they had to go by a third vehicle. We have...
Jackie Szymanski is in Paris. She's joining us now. And Jackie, the first question comes from Dave. Dave, go ahead with your question.
I fail to see the significance of the surveillance video because it just seems it's giving the media one more opportunity to take a look at Diana's private life. And does it really matter? Would it have mattered had she not been killed in the accident?
You're absolutely right. Probably not. We wouldn't have paid any attention to the surveillance video if she'd not died in a car crash later that evening. And as far as many here are concerned, it doesn't prove very much either. It does show a lot. It shows the princesses and Dodi's final moments in the hotel, their movements and so on. It may, in fact, be used in the criminal investigation. Some of the points raised by the Al Fayed spokespeople are that you cannot see paparazzi at the back of the hotel, even though journalists have claimed that they were on both sides of the hotel, that sort of thing. But you're absolutely right. If she had not been killed, A, this video would not have been released, and B, there wouldn't have been any interest in it.
We've got to take a break. Jackie Szymanski, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll take a break. We will be back after this.
This beautiful little girl is Michelle. She lives overseas with her family in this horrible slum. Michelle must walk these rocky, filthy streets barefoot because her family is so poor they can't even afford a pair of shoes. Hello, I'm Walter Coppage for Children International. Please, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you this free, no-obligation information kit with the photo and family history of a little boy or girl who needs you. You'll learn how you can give one special child overseas, like Michelle, a pair of shoes, and so much more. Then if you decide to become a sponsor, your monthly gift is only $12. Your $12 will provide medical care, clothing, food, a chance to go to school, and more. But remember, there is no obligation, and the information kit is absolutely free. So please, call now. Call 1-800-854-2200. That's 1-800-854-2200.
When you have heart disease, what you want to do is control blood pressure so that you don't get to the point where you have a heart attack. At my company, we have designed a little pill that you take the night before that is actually a micro-engineered osmotic pump. That by the time the patient wakes up, they have the right amount of medicine in their bloodstream. When I'm working on a program that's going to have an impact on patients' lives, it's the most wonderful feeling that there is.
From the beginning of time, people wondered, why does car buying have to be such a pain? Then car buying pain relief was invented. It's free, it's easy, it's Auto Vitel. Buy, finance, lease, and insure cars and trucks at low cost on the internet at AutoVitel.com. Save time, money, and headaches through AutoVitel's network of accredited dealers.
On the internet, AutoVitel.com.
I saw a commercial for Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and it was a beacon that led me to a hospital with a completely different approach. They believe in treating you mind, body, and soul, and what a difference. Now that I'm well, I feel a responsibility to help other cancer patients find the care that they too deserve. The first call that any patient should make should be to Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Please call us today at 1-800-773-0458.
I have switched to new Polygrip Ultra Fresh. I haven't seen any of the adhesive that controls denture odor. New Polygrip Ultra Fresh gives me a very strong grip, and Polygrip Ultra Fresh works for me. So I'm really excited about it.
We are joined now by Ian Williams. He is with Channel 4 in Calcutta. And I understand, sir, that you were with Mother Teresa this morning. Without being too prying, can you tell us what took place?
Well, I'd been along to the mission, the headquarters where Mother Teresa runs her operation in Calcutta. I'd attended Mass there where Mother Teresa was present. She was in a wheelchair at the back of the hall, in which there were about, I would say, 100 of her nuns. This is an event that happens every morning from 6 till 7. She was frail. She looked weak. But in my conversation with her after Mass, she was certainly very mentally alert.
Ian, how would she want, and what would she want people to do on the day of her passing?
I think she'd probably want them to think about the work that she was doing. She was always a very self-effacing person, and the impact that she's had has been enormous in terms of the charitable work, not only in Calcutta, but well beyond. I spoke to her briefly, privately, after the Mass this morning, and one of the reasons I did that was to talk about Princess Diana and some of the plans that they were having to mark the funeral tomorrow of Princess Diana in London, and they were arranging a special Mass in respect of Diana. And I'd asked Mother Teresa about how she was, about her own health. But each time I did so, she turned the question round and was curious to know about how the death of Diana had been received by the British public, and to talk about how tragic that had been, the death of what she called a good, kind person. There was certainly close affinity between the two of them. They'd met on a number of occasions. But that in many respects was quite typical, in that she was more concerned to turn the attention towards others, or towards the nature of her work, than she was to dwell too much on her own position.
Was she planning for her own death? I know that Sister Ramallah had been groomed to take over the top position, and really had been for many years as Mother Teresa's health failed.
I think that's possible. She'd been particularly weak this last year after her illness, well, a little over a year ago, when she had serious heart problems and was very, very close to death. And she's been confined largely to a wheelchair since then. And I think that she was very much prepared mentally for that, for this.
Thank you for your insight in joining us. Thank you to all of our guests, by the way. We will leave you with 2 comments. Dave Cunningham says, pray, feed the hungry, hold the ill, do good. That is all. Chaz Wells says, goodbye, dearest ladies. The world will miss you. That's it. Thank you for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Tonight on CNN's Larry King Live, a look back at Diana's life and tragic death with those who knew her. Tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.